Former Black Ferns captain Les Elder joins the panel to discuss her old team's semi-final loss to Canada. We cross live to Taylor Curtis for the latest on the team. Stephen Donald has a crack at picking the All Blacks 23 for the Bledisloe Cup test. And Jeff is excited after the Ranfurly Shield heads south to Dunedin. It's like he waited till we were on air to talk about it. But this is the road to the final Women's Rugby World Cup. The finalists, well, this is what it looks like. It comes down to Canada and England. And that is a really interesting, certainly given the semi-finals, that is going to be a very interesting matchup next weekend. New Zealand in the bronze final now against France. And Les, I don't know where to start. It was a big game. It was a huge game. And credit where credit's due, Canada was sensational. Yeah,
absolutely. It was probably the comment I said immediately after the game, because I knew that we'd be looking to someone to blame. And probably now is the time to start unpacking what we do next. But they were just too good. They were powerful, they were fast, and they were accurate. All right, well, let's take a look. Let's have a bit of a recap of the weekend.
They have ended New Zealand's reign, and it is so richly deserved. Canada 34, New Zealand 19. The pain palpable on one side, the joy on the other.
And a result few of us saw coming. The Black Ferns out-muscled.
Passed by Canada this morning, 34-19.
Being in the black jersey is such a huge honour. Whether it's 7s or 15s, it's such a massive honour, and we don't go there to lose. We go there to do our best. We feel for them.
A massive thank you to everyone back home. Your support has meant the world to us. Whether you got up at 12 a.m, 4 a.m, 2 a.m, we felt it. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia.
Georgia and Liana we've seen in tears, and those are two players that don't put a lot of emotion, you know, in front of everyone. They keep that for closed doors. So to see that, it just shows how much this hurts.
Yeah, we gutted for the ladies, you know, gutted for Aotearoa back at home.
Yeah, extremely proud. You know, there's some broken bodies, our girls coming off the bench, our finishing squad. We've got this young squad, really new to this kind of environment, World Cup semi-finals, and all the pressure that it brings on, but extremely proud of the girls. Like I said, we've got one more game.
Yes, one more game for that third place. And we'd love to hear from you on the show here at The Breakdown. All you have to do is just scan that QR code, have your say. There's a poll you can answer, or you can just tell us what you think about what's happened over the last, the World Cup campaign for the Black Ferns. And Les, I'll come back to you with that because, you know, we know how much the Black Ferns will be hurting, but my daughter and I, we had a sleepover in the lounge. We had our Black Ferns jerseys on and we got up most games and watched them, except when they were before school. Mum got up on her own for those ones. But I know that the Black Ferns would be hurting, but they need to understand just how much what their performance has meant to us back home, especially as women watching the game unfold on the world stage in front of full houses over in England. It has been sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole World Cup has. You know, it's been very joyful, not just the Black Ferns, but all the other teams. We've got to be able to go into their changing sheds and get a feel for the environments, understand the personalities, get to know players a little bit deeper. So I think that's probably why it hurts a little bit more as well. But, you know, at the same time, we have to be critical of ourselves, and that's the only way we're going to be able to get better, is to start picking apart how we can change things.
And if we are going to pick apart a few areas, for you, Jeff, were there any in particular that you thought the Black Ferns weren't at their best?
Look, what I did see is I saw a Black Ferns team give everything they possibly could in terms of trying to defend a Rugby World Cup. The questions I have are the fact that Canada were clearly better than us. Yeah. Clearly. Yeah. And in the first 20 minutes, they showed that. They played at a tempo, at a speed, had a skill set, and had a balance and composure about their game that we couldn't match. Now, we hung tough. We tried to fight our way back into the game, and I thought sort of, you know, just after half-time, there seemed to be a little bit of a shift. But I think the class of this Canadian team came through, and I think what we have to now start doing is we start looking at why have we started going in that direction? Because we were clearly, a few years ago, a number of years ago, the best team in the world. And then England have established themselves, and now Canada have established themselves as better than us at playing the game at the highest level. And we need to ask questions about that. I'm super proud of the group, but I think ultimately, if you look at it from where I'm looking right now, there are two teams in the final that are better at the game right now.
Yeah, and that's probably what I totally agree with that. I think it's not a game that actually surprised us. You know, we knew going into this was always going to be the biggest game. We were going to be on the other side of that in the semi-final if we got to that sort of stage. And they were tracking pretty nicely. That Irish game, while it was a little bit, they got there, with a relatively good performance, and you take confidence in that. But it wasn't a Canadian side that we thought, oh, hey, they might sneak up on us. And they kind of went into another level. And then they got us early, but it was built on pressure. There was pressure on a side and some youngsters, particularly out wide, and an effort that was outstanding, to try and get themselves back in the game. But in a semi-final match against a team that we've lost against and then drawn against the last couple of years, this was always going to be a sort of an uphill challenge, especially after that break.
I've got to say, there was a lot of belief around the group, though, and you could feel it here. I thought every game they got better and better. We're going to cross over to Taylor Curtis now, who is coming to us live from Bristol. And Taylor, it was a tough loss for the Black Ferns, but you were there on the ground. What was the vibe like there? Was there a sense of pride at what this group was able to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, immediately, straight after the game, everyone felt it. It was kind of like a shell shock moment. That it's not very often the Black Ferns lose those games, but it's always a tight contest against Canada anyway, and it could have gone either way. And I know how polished Canada looked. They completely played their game and we rolled into that. But I mean, at the end of the day, superpower teams on both sides really felt for the girls. They went back to their hotel and celebrated the milestones anyway, and any kind of good that they could from that game, which was Roa Hay Demant's 50th and as well as Aisha Letienga's 30th. But they got to run each other, and they took yesterday to digest that, and then now you see that they're ready to go into this bronze medal final against France. But it's a kind of a bittersweet moment at the moment.
Hey Taylor, Les here. Yesterday I sort of read body language and tried to sort of get a feel of how the girls were feeling as the game was unravelling. What was happening in the crowd though? Were there moments where the crowd kind of thought, oh no, it's too far gone, we've lost this? Or were we faithful to the end?
I feel like it was so intense in those first 20, 30 minutes that we were all looking at each other. Like I was with Amy du Plessis, which was remarkable to have her with us, but it just felt like there was a knife edge that you could cut through the tension at the moment. But then as we went through in the 20 minutes after that first half, Canada came out, they scored that try, but there was still some sort of belief that we were about to crack through. If only we had an extra 10 minutes, but you can't leave it to that extra. You know, as we see, it's semi-finals, it's Rugby World Cup, anything can happen. If we had an extra 10 minutes, that is probably where we would have been able to go above and beyond, but you can't leave it to those chances. And it did look like there was a glimpse of hope that came through, especially with Georgia Ponsonby or even Kaipor Olsen-Baker breaking through, but we just couldn't get there.
Taylor, clearly Canada were coming into this tournament as a force, had been very, very good. On what you've seen now and the way they pretty much dismantled the Black Ferns, have you got them at favourites to possibly beat England in the final in this tournament?
Well, I mean, everyone's saying whoever won that game between Canada and Black Ferns, we're going to win the World Cup. So that is the flavour of the month at the moment that's going around England. But then watching England and France yesterday, there were little chinks that were happening in the England defence. Like, I mean, their defence was great, but I mean, the way that they couldn't get the ball back off France in those moments, France really put a lot of pressure on them. But then John Mitchell's going to come away with that, and he goes, we were weathering that storm, and we weathered that storm a little bit longer than we would like to. So, I mean, that's put them on notice. They've taken a lot from that game. So England probably will scrape through, but last time the World Cup, there was only 9 points between those two teams. And then before that, like, I mean, earlier last year, then it was only a try. So it's very, very narrow between those two teams.
Oh, I would love to see Canada get up. That would be a fantastic result for us, I think, especially after they carried on France with the try scoring. But that's neither here nor there. But let's talk about let's talk about the Black Ferns and their week and what that looks like before that bronze medal match. What do they do? How many trainings, or do they just keep it pretty light?
I reckon they're going to go full blitz into it. They will not give players game time just for the sake of it. I think they will want to come home doing New Zealand proud. We need to get behind them. I mean, we've seen it before, but more now than ever that we need to get behind our girls. They will go out on full blitz. It's Portia Woodman-Wycliffe's last World Cup and probably last rugby game that we'll ever see her on that world stage. So we need to watch her in full flight and just back these girls.
Well, Taylor, you've done a brilliant job for us over there. We look forward to hearing from you later in the week. Thank you for your time, and you can go back to bed now if you'd like, or go get a nice coffee somewhere with Blair.
Cheers, thanks guys. Yeah, I need a good coffee.
You're
Thanks,
a good woman,
Laura.
thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit more about the game and the Black Ferns and where to from here. I'd love to quickly ask your thoughts, Les, though, because there was so much made of Georgia Miller not playing in that game, and she's had a brilliant World Cup up until that point. Would she have been the difference? Could we have won with her?
Look, I think when you look at it collectively, right across the field, all the aspects of the game, I don't think she would have flipped the game into a different result, but I think she would have had some influential moments, especially when Canada started to pick and go. I thought that because of the awareness of how Canada can strike out wide, we actually missed opportunities to turn over ball at the pick and go stages when they were hammering us at the line. So she may have been able to inject herself there and make some key turnovers.
One of the great. Oh, you go.
No, it's not the difference for me.
No, what was
the
the difference
between winning and losing? This is a conversation that's very similar to me for the All Blacks. Decision making under pressure, our skill execution, and once again, I felt as though we were very predictable in a lot of our attack, and we weren't able to get into unstructured play to allow some of our special abilities to get into space. Now, we'd done a little bit of that earlier in the tournament against some easier teams, and Georgia Miller was able to take advantage of mismatches. I don't think she would have found the same mismatches against this Canada team. They would have identified the threat that she posed. So I think for me, we've got some conversations about where our game is going in terms of the education, our coach education at lower levels. So when players get to this level, for me, Mills, they're well and truly prepared, because we started the chip and chase gamble again.
Yeah.
No dissimilar to what the All Blacks did a week ago in Wellington. So for me, there are issues in how we are coaching this game to get to this point, to deal with pressure, because pressure ended up being our enemy. We made too many errors in big moments.
I kind of got the feeling that we panicked a little bit when they got up, and then we tried to play an expansive game that almost set right into Canada's sort of hands, you know, because they played it better than us. You know, as soon as they sort of got a little bit of momentum, and it was one of those games you thought, well, hey, can we change the momentum? How are we going to change the momentum? And when you're kind of looking at it, easy when we're sitting at home, it probably needed to slow down a little bit. You know, try and sort of, try and wrestle it back, possibly through our I suppose, pick and goes, and also set piece time, rather than, I just thought that we got to a stage where we needed to sort of throw things around. There was still plenty of time in the game before the break, and that's where we made the mistakes. When we made mistakes, Canada, they just lifted another gear, got down the other end, and then they keep collecting points.
Yeah, I mean, earlier in the tournament, I wanted to ask the question of where has our offloading game gone, where we just play on top, where we've got that gain line and we suffocate defence. And I feel like that has kind of disappeared. It was what won us the World Cup in 2022. Now it's like we catch and run instead of running on, catching, and just continuously pushing defence back. I actually thought, on the flip side of what you're just saying, I actually thought that when we started to play chaotically with the little chips, we were getting some good momentum out of that. But you're right, once they nullified that, then we didn't have another option.
In terms of preparation, Super Rugby Aupiki, I just think, 4 test matches leading into the Rugby World Cup. But what's the best professional competition in the world? Where is that?
The PWR.
So how many players have we got playing in the best competition in the world?
None of our Black Ferns. We've got 3 that'll be leaving this Rugby World Cup and joining. They're all from Matatu, Amy Rule, Alana Bremner and Georgia Ponsonby. But we don't have any current Black Ferns playing there.
Do we need our players playing in that competition to develop and get better competition? Because for me, we're just playing ourselves again. Super Rugby Aupiki, we're playing ourselves. You know, I get the sense, I'm going to say it out there, Super Rugby, is it preparing our players to come up against the rest of the world?
Well, I'm going to, off the back of that, Craig from Wellsford, now you can talk to us throughout the show. We'd love to hear from you. There's a QR code you can scan, have your say. There's a poll up on the screen you can see there. Ask us your questions. But Craig from Wellsford wants to know, is the Farah Palmer Cup really benefiting our players? I asked that on top of...
Surely it's benefiting the younger players.
Yeah, it's probably more of a platform now for the younger players. I don't think it's where our Black Ferns are needing to get good, or where they'll get good rugby. Come back to your point around PWR. At the moment, Canada have 16 of their current 32 at the World Cup that are playing in the PWR. They're playing a lot more rugby. That competition goes for 8 months. Our Aupiki goes for 8 weeks. I think not even that, maybe 7. So we're not playing as much rugby. I think we need to play more rugby. Great point about the FPC. I I don't know that that's where our girls would benefit from. But at the same time, coming back to the Super Rugby, I had a theory a couple of years ago that FPC should have been where we invested so we had more players playing across the whole country, and we grew that.
I think if you look at it as a whole, I mean, have we missed the boat? Have we now missed the boat with joining up with Australia? I mean, look at where Australia have got. I mean, they were 46, 7 in their quarter-final against Canada. I mean, so has the Northern Hemisphere, is now the time that, to your point, that we need to start sending players over there to play over there?
I just don't think we can't treat it like the men's game. Treat it differently. Create opportunities to play both. Create both. Find the right windows.
Well, what about the NRLW, if we throw that in the mix as well, because there's a lot of our players going over there?
If you're talking about getting more experience and getting more professional and getting more support, if there are windows out there, because if we just start investing in ourselves once again, and I agree, we are doing it at the lower level, but Super Rugby Aupiki to me has a ceiling in terms of how much better we can get as a result of that. If we don't take our game around the world and play as many test matches as feasibly possible, but by the same token, just consistently in environments, and if we're playing against the rest of the world and other players, we will get better as a result. But if we stay in our bubble, if we continue to stay in our bubble, we're going to struggle.
OK, well, one of the questions from John from Dunedin wants to know, and Mills, I'll start with you, do the Black Ferns now need a new coach? They have to go in a new direction with a lot of young players coming through, a lot of senior players. You know, will they be around for the next cycle?
Great question. I mean, he's done a lot, hasn't he, in the women's game, both in the sevens. You've probably had a lot to do with him as well, but let's not overreact. I mean, yes, we've lost the semi-final, but it's a chance also to sort of debrief and see where they got to. I think there's a big part where, how do you make sure, and we did this last time, they integrate the sevens environment back into the 15s. You talked about, Les, about the fact that they don't play enough. How do you get, test match footy leading up to a Rugby World Cup? We often talk about the last time we won, we kind of scraped through then as well. The preparation wasn't that great, but we still haven't learned from that. So I think, to answer his question, probably right now, no. I think he's a quality coach. And he's shown that with the stuff that he's done with the sevens. He needs a bit more time, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to come back to the sevens program as well. And I think one of the things I've raised in the past is we can't rely on the sevens girls to keep winning us World Cups. We can't just prepare for a World Cup a year out from the tournament. We need to start winning games in between each cycle, and that's what England have done really well. 65 matches, only one they've lost, and that was the World Cup. But they are good for that whole cycle. We are good maybe in the months leading up. That can't continue. It's not sustainable. And just to give some context, Canada actually have a centralised program where their 7s and 15s are all just in one pool. They're trained to be rugby players, and then whether they get selected for 7s or 15s, that's up to the coaches that run the program.
Could that work here?
I'd be interested to see how that might play out. I'm not 100% sure. What I do believe that New Zealand Rugby's got a responsibility to invest in coaching, because I think that's where we're falling short at the moment. New Zealand Rugby has 170 employees, 170, of which 2 are dedicated to actual coach development and referee development. Seriously, across our country, they're putting it in the hands of the provincial unions, but we need to get our network stronger so that we're coaching at the lower levels to prepare our players as they go up. These things, decision-making, skill execution, structure as a game, I think I'd hate to see talked about in the game. You watch a high school game now.
Yep.
Everyone does the same thing. Yeah. They're copying Super Rugby. We're pods here, pods that. Our instinctiveness and ability to see space. And look, I spoke to Wayne Smith at length about this, the fact that our ability to execute skills under pressure, that comes down to coaching. And to me, it's not at the highest level, it's actually at the levels below. And it should be a really strong pyramid of information coming down. Our best skills, our best coaches delivering information so that we can bolster the bottom rather than at the moment. I think our focus is at the top. We need to prepare the players better. That's what we need to do. And the only way you do that was with coaching.
Yeah, so if we look at the whole thing, when it's all is said and done and we take a year realistically to really focus on a World Cup, that's how long we give ourselves once we bring the group together. Did we meet expectations? We've asked the poll question today, which you can have your say. I'll ask the same question of you guys. Was it below expectations, meet expectations, or higher expectations for what happened out there for the Black Ferns? I
mean, I think for any Kiwi, that the expectation we have on the black jersey is that you come back with a gold, that you come back with the trophy. So absolutely, I'm going to say that no, we didn't meet the expectations. But yeah, there's some things, I guess, that concerned us leading into that where people might think otherwise.
OK, well, Les, I want to thank you.
Can I say that though?
Yes.
I just want to say, for me, it met expectations because I watched Canada play and how well they played. Yep. And I sit there and go, you know what? They were awesome. Like, they were so good. And I go, I would like to see us play like that. That's what I'd like to see us do.
How
For
we
me,
used to play.
Well, okay, so, yep, good. I think we've covered that off very well there, Jeff. Thank you very much, Liz. I want to thank you so much for coming on here. Don't forget the Black Ferns journey isn't over. There's another game that's happening in another week's time. So we're going to take a short break here on The Breakdown. When we come back, we're going to talk about the All Blacks as they get ready for Bledisloe Cup.
With the Springboks departing our shores, the Wallabies now lie in wait. The All Blacks' most prized possession, the Bledisloe Cup, is up for grabs again. September 27, the formidable fortress of Eden Park will once again be centre stage.
Oh, gee whiz! That is magic.
Can the All Blacks continue their stranglehold on this famous piece of silverware? Or will Joe Schmidt and his resurgent Wallabies finally create history? In this modern age of test match rugby, nothing is guaranteed.
Hell of a comeback from this Wallaby team.
And with the Rugby Championship still on the line, this series promises to be a blockbuster. The 2025 Battle of the Bledisloe is coming very soon, live only on Sky Sport.
Oh, is it what? It's very exciting. The Bledisloe on the way. Jeff Wilson, Bills Molina, and joining us now is Stephen Donald. Beaver, where you been?
Just actually picking a team out the back, so yeah,
working hard.
Here I am.
Here you are. Well, we would love to see that team. And boys, you can have your wee whatever you think about. It's very secret. No one's been allowed to know about Stephen Donald's potential All Blacks team getting.
You refer to me as Razor from now on, actually.
Yes, I can. I can. Are you sure about it? Anyway, here it is. Okay. Oh, dear. We've already heard. Talk us through it, Stephen Donald, and then I'll let you have your comment, Jeff Wilson.
Okay, well, this team was picked on what we've got coming up, and I'm picking it on two teams. We've got a daytime test coming up at Eden Park, and then we go to Perth and play on the hard, fast deck in Perth. So I've picked the team accordingly. I've picked a team that I believe is going to play that game. And a bit to nullify of what I expect from the Wallabies at Eden Park. And let's not hold Jeff Wilson back anymore.
Well, look, actually, I've got a few questions.
Go first, because I don't know where to start, to be honest.
Well, the big change up front is Dupsy Karifi starts at 7.
Yeah.
That is justified by the fact that they are going to play a very quick game. Their whole game in the first part of the season has been based on their speed of ball. They've also got an outstanding loose forward trio when it comes to playing on the ground themselves. And I just think that extra feature, that extra man that plays on the ground, and Dupsy Karifi is going to be an asset to us. So that's why he gets in ahead of, say, a bigger body and more robust Parker for this particular test match.
Okay, Rico back, Anton Leonard-Brown.
Yes.
Talk us through those, your back line there.
Clearly, Rico's not seen as a 13 anymore. Anton Leonard-Brown is our best defensive 13. They are going to throw plenty at us in and around there. They're superstars at 13, and it's not just him that worries me, it's what they've got outside him. So I've gone for, as I said, I think our best defensive experienced centre, and I've gone that route. I've gone Rico on the wing. There's going to be some demons come across the Tasman for these Wallabies. So I want as many faces who have been there, done that, to be staring at them, saying, "Hey boys, we're still here. And when was the last time you won at Eden Park?"
I'm loving the attitude. I really am.
I just thought I have to really come at you.
You did. I really did. You're breathing very heavily over here.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it.
Off you go, Goldie.
So you finally made a change at 10, have you?
I have.
All of the discussions we have on this table for years and years and years, the first is about who's the starting 10 for the All Blacks.
Yep.
You've decided now it's time for a change.
Yeah, I've thought. I don't know if you picked up my start of my press conference, but I said the next 2 test matches is one daytime, one in Perth.
Yeah.
If you're going to give Damien McKenzie a chance, this is tailor-made conditions.
He can't play at night.
Well, no, he gets sleepy.
I mean, he plays most of his games at night in Hamilton. I mean, you can play anywhere. I mean, seriously, that's not a good enough reason for.
He's suited for this, Jeff.
For this team.
I have to agree.
He is suited for these 2 games.
Damon's played. He's really stepped up. There's a lot of energy there when he's come on at fullback. I think this is a good opportunity for him. Daytime raining in Auckland to play. The other side of it, I'm not sure if I do agree with you around Artie at 8. The speed at the back, especially when you've got Harry Wilson there. That'll be the other side of that. I think I still would love to see Artie at 7 and a bit bigger body at the back of the scrum.
Is that to chop Harry Wilson?
Yes.
He's getting off the scrum himself. Yep. Yeah, I considered that, Mills. But I must say, I do like Artie's speed off the back, and I just think the pace of this game it's going to be the fastest test both teams have played all year, without a shadow of doubt. I know you're quizzing me on that one, Goldie, but hence why
Why in the world would we go into that with them when it's their strength? Why would we get sucked into playing that game?
Is it not our strength?
Well, clearly at the moment, what we are doing is making a lot of mistakes and errors. If we get into a point where the one thing that South Africa did when they got in trouble is they burnt themselves out, made mistakes, and Australia went the other end. And what they've got is serious amounts of speed. Serious amounts of speed. The fact that if you make an error against them in the moment it gets a little bit fractured, a little bit of broken play, and the ball's kept alive, they are gone. If they play Tall or Jorgensen, Callaway at the back, you know, the one thing I'm wary of is Joseph Ali'i. I mean, he has all of a sudden, in the matter of months, turned into a world-class centre. He's going to put us under pressure. We're going to need speed at centre. Can Anton Leonard-Brown handle getting himself at a... I agree with you. For years, he's done a fantastic job. I look at it from my perspective and I go, we need speed. Why have you gone with a Rieko Ioane over a Leroy Carter, who for me was one of the picks of the Test match in Wellington? Looked really good on his feet, explosive. I see him as a guy I think is possibly one of our wings who's got a future for us.
Yeah, I certainly considered Leroy Carter, but I just felt after having watched Caleb Clark yesterday, look, as fit as a fiddle, so sharp, and Rieko, I just thought, what's going to be coming at us too? Possibly a couple of...
I would actually... I'd personally have Anton coming off the bench. I think our biggest issue is the second half. I think I'd love to see him come off the bench and off early, like make that change early. Our start isn't the problem at the moment. We've started really well over the championship. It's our finishing. We almost come out of the second half, out of the half-time break, and we've sort of gone into something totally different. I think having an Anton Leonard-Brown come off the bench, he brings that bit of experience. He also will drive the game around and helping Geordie there. So he's definitely going to be in the mix, but I think possibly off the bench.
The Wallabies have really enjoyed the back end of their second half, actually, so that does make it slightly more concerning. What does your bench look like, Jeff Wilson?
It's a really... I'd love us to experiment with the 6-2 split. I really would, but that would involve playing both Damien McKenzie and Beauden Barrett starting, which would definitely be a challenge. There's that thing called the ear that we still have to try and own in some way.
Caleb Clark.
And we're just going to put it on his shoulders once again and go, you know what? I understand, you know, Will Jordan back to fullback. I don't mind the fact Beauden Barrett coming off the bench. Some of his best Test matches have been off the bench in terms of finishing when teams are, I suppose, a little bit more tired. But I don't see this Australian team getting tired. They go to another gear.
Would you consider Ruben Love on the right wing? He was very good in the air against Southland in some tricky conditions. He
commits himself to it. Once again, though, I'm not sure he has the out-and-out speed. That's why I thought Carter was good. I thought Carter is one of our fastest players in New Zealand, and I think that's what we're going to be up against. Look, let's be honest. I mean, this game was probably going to be won and lost up front, and we're all expecting a response, right? We're all expecting us to come out and play the best Test match we've had since 2 weeks ago at Eden Park.
That'd be
well, that's what we're expecting, right?
Well, let's just have a look, because at home you can see the poll, and we'd love to hear from you throughout the show here on the breakdown. You just scan the QR code. 58% of people are worried, and a lot of people are also worried that you might have had a quick drink before you picked that squad. That is some text there from Peter.
Yes.
He's worried that what you've been doing, Peter from Cambridge, is that also Jeff Wilson, I think, sent a similar text. Fine. But are you guys worried?
No. Goldie mentioned the response. There's going to be a massive response, and I'm still convinced that the Australian team's got to come over and get it through their head that they're coming to win. I think there's a mental edge there still, and I genuinely believe that's a factor, and I genuinely believe the response. Like, the boys have been in the community. They're not oblivious to the fact that the 40-point thing in the Cake Tin. So I'd imagine they're going to come out roaring as it was 2 weeks ago when they beat the world champions there.
Consistency is something that teams talk about a lot, but consistently we have won and then lost, won and then lost. That is what consistency looks like for the All Blacks at the moment. So for you, Jeff, are you worried?
I'm a little bit like Beaver in regards to the fact I'm almost looking at these two Test matches together, because if we can't put two performances together, we're no better off. if we perform at Eden Park and then we go to Perth and then not perform, does it tell us we're learning? Does it tell us we're getting better? Does it tell us we're adapting what we need to do? So I think I'm confident. I'll say I'm confident. There's no Will Skelton, and Rob Valentini's been ruled out for this game. And I think they were two massive bodies, Mills, that gave them some real punch, some real solidity up front. Skelton hasn't been there for a couple of games, but I still think they needed that size against us. Yeah. And you're right, you can't, the last 20-odd years, that's still there again for the Bledisloe Cup. I mean, that's still alive. They've got to win both games. Right. So for me, I'm confident in the response. I just want to see 2 really good weeks of preparation and performance.
And so when you look at this side and you look at the Wallabies and all the history there, but also the way the Wallabies, they're on a bit of a hot streak at the moment. Despite not always getting the results, they are playing a lot better footy than we've seen for a while.
100%.
Are you nervous?
I'm not. I'm similar to these guys. I don't look at it as a 2 game. They've got to get this right, and they've had a lot of time to brew over the fact that they, lost the loss in Wellington. You're right. They've been in the community. There's a bit of hurt, but now that's over. There's a mental edge going into Eden Park, thinking that hey, they haven't won here for a long time. They have not had the Bledisloe for a long time. And if you look before this, that game in Wellington, we were looking pretty good. We just got to try and emulate that and then back up with the second half.
Well, yeah, back up with the second half. So let's go through the numbers then, through the Rugby Championship, because this is astounding. We've scored 3 points. 3 points in 4 test matches just after half-time for between 40 to 60 minutes. And what's troubling if you're an All Black fan is that Wallabies come home with a wet sail. Now, they've been digging some holes, and they've been getting themselves in real trouble. And they've had to do it in the very dying moments of test matches. But they believe in minutes 60 to 80 that they can win any test match. Imagine if they started to get the first half right. Imagine if they did that. Let's imagine they got out to a flyer. Imagine, say, we got charged down early. Imagine we gave away a few penalties and they kicked some goals. And all of a sudden, they've got one thing in terms of belief, Beaver, is that they can finish. That's something that we haven't shown in 18 months that we can do.
No, and I think your point earlier too around Valentini and Skelton, when they've been not there, the physicality's been missing. And the other question mark is what's going to happen at 10 for them. Like if it's not O'Connor or it's not Liner, I think they've got massive issues that the All Blacks are going to exploit. And then if you're nervous and a bit green, Eden Park trying to break this hoodoo is not going to be the place for you. It's got to be O'Connor or Liner, and if it's neither of them, I consider it pretty big ask, a bridge too far.
Well, what's Joe Schmidt saying to his troops? Because this is, I mean, he must be loving this. He's got his team, the Australian team, into a situation where people are talking about Australia coming over and breaking the hoodoo and doing all these things. And he's worked with a lot of the players in that All Black squad. He's got the inside oil, I'm sure, on a few of them. So is he in the box seat?
He would be very focused on getting things right in the first 10 or so minutes. And that's on the other side for us. We have to. It's mouth-watering stuff because we've often spoken about it. I've spoken about it with you, Jeff. The set piece. Now is a real good time for them to test it. We've been a little bit vulnerable in that area, so the guys will be working on sort of that and trying to get sort of the dominance in that department back, particularly against the Australians, because it has been something that we've had over them. So that will be a big thing for them to be able to consider. The Eden Park factor, absolutely it is. But also off the back end of the All Blacks losing the way they did in Wellington, there's some hurt guys. They've got to get things right within the group first and foremost.
Do you think Joe Schmidt would ever want to coach the All Blacks? Beaver, do you think he'd want to coach the All Blacks?
I dare say, of course he does.
You think?
He's a New Zealander.
I wondered, how motivated do you think he is for this test match?
I wouldn't imagine. Would you come much more motivated if you've
well, I'm just
worked
saying.
in the group and you had an opportunity perhaps to stay? It didn't seem like he wanted to at the time, so he goes over to Australia. Although he says he doesn't want to coach, and then he's the head coach of the Wallabies, and things are happening.
And then he's decided to stay on a little bit longer?
Oh.
Just a little bit longer? It's like he extends out a little bit longer. Now, they've named Les Kiss for next year, and he's going to finish out the season. I'm just looking at this from perspective. Mike Cron, same thing, part of the coaching team there. I think in some ways trying to prove a point about coaching credentials. I mean, coming into Eden Park, I think if you're talking about a team being prepared, no team's going to be better prepared for this game through experience and having been on the other side of it, trying to defend it in an All Black environment, knowing how the All Blacks are probably going to prepare individually and knowing the players. Australia's got no better chance than they've had for a long, long time.
Mills, now how are you feeling after that little speech? Because
I'm just saying.
he's got some interesting points there.
I mean they do, but not Not with the calibre of guys that we've got. You know, I still believe that, you know, across the board, I mean, we're looking at sort of your selections across there. It's how we're going to play. That's the bit that I'm looking forward to trying to see. We've been talking about it for a long time. You can't be inconsistent week in, week out when you're in the All Black environment. So they've got to get themselves back on track and back on the way that they played in that intensity in the first half, the last couple of games, that was right up there. They've just got to match it with perhaps some strategic planning around and what the second half looks like. And that's the last 18 months, we have been, look at the figures, 30 points in 4 games. You know, we didn't score any last in Wellington. So surely, as a coaching outfit, you'd be looking at it. Is it the fact that we need to win the toss? You know, what do we come out with? What's the plan? Why are we going into the break and coming out of it almost half asleep? You know, that's probably what they need to try and discuss. Everything else is there. I'm confident in that. And but the Australians, if you look at it, they've had the best preparation when it comes to the mental side of things, because look at what happened in the Lions series. You know, you can't get more intense than having a Lions series that they went through, and the South Africa, that first game in South Africa. They're a different side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Laura, I don't know if you looked at my bench, but
can I have a look at it again, please? Hang on, let me just see if I can see it again. Hold on.
I've got the world's greatest of all time on the bench as far as bench player, Beauden Barrett. Without a shadow of a doubt, he can bring in so much. We've seen it so often. Leicester Nuku gets his crack off the bench for me, and Peter Lakai, just drop him in, Goldie. You'd be a fan of that.
So, guys, a couple of players there with very little experience.
Correct.
You've just decided to go...
One-off, eh?
Yeah, just a one-off, OK. Yeah. They're free.
Yes.
They're free of any pressures. They're just going out there to play.
I know you've been campaigning for Leicester for a long time, so you're happy with that.
No, when have I been campaigning? I haven't been campaigning. I'm usually campaigning for somebody else. I will say this, though, quickly. Cam Roygaard, I see straight back in.
Straight back in.
Yeah. Impact straight away.
Yeah, I think, impact straight away.
Huge impact.
Yeah. And you've got Cortez Ratabe being fit.
Yeah, look, I've got a few guys that I haven't quite checked on the medical status.
Yep.
But
Shot Razor?
If they're there, they're in.
Shot Razor? checked on the medical
Razor,
staff.
thank you.
We've had a breakdown.
You said to call you Razor, didn't you?
You've had a one.
The physio hasn't arrived at the hotel yet,
That's okay.
So we'll sort it out when he gets in. Okay.
All right, well, it's been quite some time since the Australians have had their hands on the Bledisloe Cup. Let's revisit some.
It was 23 years ago the Wallabies last won the Bledisloe. Back then, John Howard and Helen Clark were PMs.
I love gold!
Austin Powers' Gold Member was the #1 movie.
Very shagadelic, baby.
The average Auckland house price was a whopping $290,000. The Warriors made their first grand final appearance. It went downhill after this try. Jeff Wilson was playing cricket, and Mills Muliaina was winning Sevens gold in Manchester. Razor was winning super titles at the Crusaders. Some things never change. And Nathan Astor went berserk and smashed a double ton against England. On the charts, Nickelback was #1. Yes, Nickelback with This Is How You Remind Me. And John Mitchell and Eddie Jones were the head coaches. Well, that is how we remind you. So will Razor reign, or will it all turn to Schmidt?
I was actually, in 2002, I was at that Nathan Astor 222 at Jade Stadium watching that, still at school though, so very young. But let's revisit what you guys were up to. Mills Muliaina, let's have a look at what you were doing in 2002, shall we?
OK. Wow.
Commonwealth gold, look at you there. Same haircut.
Yeah, jeepers.
Talk us through that.
Body's not the same.
I was about to say.
Oh, come on.
A lot more defined these days. Hey. Jeepers.
So that was your 2002. Let's have a look at Jeff Wilson in 2002. What was he up to? Playing a little bit of cricket.
And after that, as soon as I let it go, I start looking up to the boundary because it's gone so far. Yep.
You look good. You like the floppy? A big fan of the floppy?
Well, yeah, clearly it didn't, I had a lot to cover. I had to cover everything.
Were you a good fielder?
Yeah. What's that?
Were you a good fielder?
When I got back in the Black Caps, I thought I got picked for fielding. I was that good at fielding.
I'd be there.
I was that good at fielding, I couldn't do anything else.
Okay, well, I disagree strongly. Stephen Donald, and you, finally, what were you doing in 2002? Look at you here, different haircut. Whoops-a-daisy.
Not quite the highlights reel I thought you were going to put out.
Now, talk us great kit.
My tackle technique.
Over the ball too.
Do you remember that game?
I remember that kick. Jeez, is that a 50-20? No. No, I don't remember that game, to be fair.
Can't imagine why. It's been a long, long time.
I've got my own highlights reel that I'll put in there for you next week.
That'd be great, actually. If you could bring that along. Yep, that'd be really good. Mills brought in that photo of him doing the haka, so that's why that was on there. Now, so when we look at just how long it has been since the Bledisloe Cup hasn't been with us, I mean, again, we talk about all this history again at Eden Park and the momentum that built up there and the tension that you felt when you walked into Eden Park. Are we going to feel something different? It's a daytime test, slightly different vibe, perhaps, or are we? I love that. 5 o'clock kickoff. New Zealand Rugby, early on decided they wanted a time slot for families, the best time for them to come along, which I think is going to be great. Look, I'm fascinated by this next couple of weeks because it's going to define a lot for a lot of people, in regards to the trajectory the All Blacks are heading on. So for me, it's been a long time, but as we've seen in recent years, a lot of things and a lot of records have been broken, and who's to say this is not the time? I mean, the Wallabies won't be thinking like that. They're going out there to win one test at Eden Park. That's it. Give themselves a shot. Trajectory is an interesting word, and the All Blacks and the trajectory that they are currently looking like being on. What do you need to see from them for these? Well, this first test. Let's look at Eden Park first, obviously. This is the Wallabies? This is the Wallabies. Yeah, I think they're going to bring plenty of energy. They need something a little bit different. You can't just rely on Joseph Swali to win them the game. They're going to have to bring something sort of else. But I have not seen a Wallabies side, in this good shape for a very long time. So they have got a shot. They've just got to bring it on the day. And look, if we think about the rugby fans and what to expect, I remember a lot growing up to before that, going to Bledisloe games and watching them with Dad and going, I don't know who's going to win this one. And for the first time in a long time, we might be feeling that way as we arrive at Eden Park. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you talk about arriving at Eden Park. We were there a couple of weeks ago and the place was electric. And I just don't know if New Zealanders have quite got their heads around that we're going again and it's going to be the same sort of feeling. Obviously, it was the World Champions last time, so we're all on edge naturally. But as you say, this is, at the moment, you say it's a coin toss game. It's a coin toss game. Well, we'll have all that you need to know. We start at 4 p.m. on Sky Sport. We have you covered for that Bledisloe test that is happening at Eden Park next Saturday. We're going to take a short break here on The Breakdown, and when we come back, more footy.
G'day, lads. Time for a quick trim before we take the Bledisloe.
We do fades, not fantasies.
We're due, mate. Overdue. And we've got Joey Schmidt. He's one of yours, isn't he? All of the Kiwi secrets for our Wallabies.
All done, champ?
You got to be joking.
All Blacks Wallabies, Saturday, Sky Sport.
Brings another one down, just manages to hold on to that beautifully. Josh Jacob now looking for support, plenty of players putting their hands up, puts a kick through. Oh, he's quick, Duffy. Oh, he's got it! What a try that is for Taranaki! Wide to go from Warper to Mali. A chip and chain from him. Neno Satuno chasing. Neno Satuno takes it out of the air. And Counties get their second.
Line out thrown in for Taylor. He's overthrown it straight to Roel Petty, who's impressed so far with the ball in hand. Preston getting close, pops it up, and that is a very good try.
So now Waikato will have the chance. Through the hands. Oh, here's the big look. Etty, great run from him. King's favourite. Morley the winner.
Organised. Oh, there's the break made by Lucas Casey. Beautiful footwork. How about that footwork from the flicker? Take the 7 off him and put 13 on him. The Shield is going to go to Otago. Not since 1948.
Yeah, I did think about phoning in sick today. Otago will still be celebrating, have no doubt. Kia ora, Tefano, thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown. I've got Mills, Beaver, Jeff alongside me. Now, Jeff, we had an email from Isabel from a retirement home down in Christchurch, and she wanted you to know that all the Nans and herself will be muting you for this portion of the show because they don't necessarily want to.
You can still see me smiling, though. You can see me smiling. Look, the one thing I'll say, look, it's been
congratulations, I'd say. I'm not a poor
I haven't even... I'm past that now. Oh. Because Otago have got one game to get through against North Harbour and then they can hold on to it. And as we've seen the last few weeks, you can go a little bit hard and it's all of a sudden it's getting on a plane or a bus heading elsewhere. Look, this was an outstanding game of rugby union between two teams that went back and forward, back and forward. Early on, you thought Canterbury were going to be comfortable and Otago just kept coming at them. A great game, great result once again for the Shield. It's travelling this year. It certainly doesn't mean, though, that Canterbury aren't the team to beat. in this year's competition, because every week, and maybe last week at the Toll, Tasman, it was really hard to hold on to it. I think in some ways they release the pressure that they can now focus on trying to win another title in Christchurch. But for our boys in Dunedin, proud of them, great moments. You got to refocus one game, North Harbour at home.
Yeah, Canterbury still top of the table and you guys are sitting in second spot. But Mills, what is it about the Ranfurly Shield? Because it's doing the rounds this year, which is cool. It actually is great. It's great for the comp. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching all of the games, actually. They've been sensational. But what is it about the Ranfurly Shield that's so special?
Well, we haven't won it, have we?
No,
I mean, so it's hard. I mean, you have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've won it. So you're asking the wrong person.
It was in 2002,
Matter of
was
fact,
it?
not in 2002. Millsy's selling himself short. He came and celebrated with us when we won it.
I touched it.
I touched it.
It has been great this year, hasn't it? I mean, I know it's moved around a bit, but it's been fantastic. When you look at the start of the season, you know, Taranaki came out strong. You thought that they would probably hold on to it. Then it sort of moved, even Southern picking it up, and now Otago having it. You're right. I mean,
imagine if North Harbour won it. They haven't won a game all year. The one game they win, they go down to Dunedin, and it changes the perspective of their whole season, right?
Well, it's a massive success.
Yeah.
If North Harbour win one game this year, but it happens to be the Shield, massive success. There'll be a street party at Albany. It will be something else, but I can't see it happening. They're not going to Dunedin, are they?
Why is it so special? Why is the Ranfurly Shield
History.
mean so much?
When you grow up, and the thing is, the great thing about today is because obviously it's NPC's lost a little bit of its stardom, but clearly the star factor that is the Ranfurly Shield is still there. It's passed down through teams, experienced players, parents obviously, to ringing up their sons going, you're playing for the Shield this week, because it used to be, and the biggest thing in our country, Goldie.
It's a shield and a trophy that some people can win that now the All Blacks can't win, that club players can win. In history, that great players and great teams have won. There've been great eras. They can come from playing club rugby all year, sit on the bench, or probably get to start, and then all of a sudden they're touching the Shield and they can go, Mills Molina hasn't had his hands on it. Well, he has, but not when he's won it. I've never touched it because I've never earned the right to touch it. It's like a Rugby World Cup. I've never touched it because I've never earned the right. For some players, it could be the greatest moment in their career. And they can talk about it for years in their old age, about the time it happened and came down. And, you know, I know it did the rounds in Invercargill. It'll do the rounds in Dunedin. You know, and for me, you know, you'll see players out there celebrating something that is incredibly special.
And they're still probably celebrating Otago, and so they should be. So we talk about the Ranfurly Shield. Let's move to the actual NPC and a recap of the weekend. And there's been some brilliant games throughout this tournament, actually. If we look at Waikato and their win, a golden point thriller over Tasman. Mills, you're chuckling. Did you enjoy that?
Well, Waikato have been the golden point kings of this season, haven't they? I mean, they started off like that, and then but it's so closely contested. I mean, the eighth, Bay of Plenty move up to 8, and they were looking strong at the beginning of the season, but there's some good players in the NPC, and it's a breeding ground for the next generation.
Team to beat at the moment. Like I think Canterbury clearly, but then you start looking across the rest. Obviously, Otago having a really strong season, but there's sort of everyone else has sort of been a little bit up and down. Big win at the death today for Northland. That's I think their 5th win of the season, puts them in the playoff picture. Bay of Plenty's big win. You know, I sort of start looking at it. And I think it's hard to pick sort of other than the top 2 at the moment in terms of form and consistency.
Well, I think with some of these teams, when their big players go big and stand up, then everyone else just jumps on the back. You think when Taranaki goes well, you've got Jacob playing the house down. When we saw Waikato yesterday, Lima in that last sort of dying moments, when everyone else just wanted to kick it, you knew Waikato, they got a chance, they were going to play. Leonard Brown gets involved.
Helpful to have 3 All Blacks come off the bench. That's helpful.
But then Oz at Pukekohe yesterday, and Counties turned it on, and Counties 3 or 4 Super Rugby players led the way, and then everyone else just got on board and were playing like Supermen on this day where they beat Big Brother. It was an unbelievable game there, and some of the influences, I think, from Etini Nanai Saturu, the Hosking Saturus of the world, Mali, it just gets everyone else on board, and I just think in those big games, if your big players can stand up in NPC, the rest will come.
Mills, I'll just say this in terms of this year's competition. I get the sense a lot of the teams have worked on their attack.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of defence that's going on a lot of these games, but all of a sudden it seems as though over probably the last couple of seasons we're developing some of those finer skills in terms of releasing players into space, getting some timing in terms of how you attack that space, afternoon kickoffs, sunny afternoons, whether that's contributing. I am a little bit... If there's a team that discovers how to play defence, and that's where I think Canterbury are aside, all of a sudden they go, oh, we can elevate. We know what playoff defence looks like. And you are seeing, I think, some of the teams that have had to roll out the same guys for the last 7 or 8 games. Manawatu have found it really tough. Southland found it really tough. Who've had a really heavy workload, who haven't been able to rotate some All Blacks coming back and playing some games. They haven't been able to do that. I think what you're seeing at the moment is there's some teams who've got some depth and others that have just had a heavy workload.
So how would you rate this comp? How do you think it's tracking? Are we doing a good job at this level?
Well, I think that considering it's competitive, it is actually a relatively good tournament. I mean, it's been great. You haven't got the 4 teams, and when you think about it, the bigger provinces are down the bottom of the table. I mean, you look at Auckland, they're sort of struggling. I mean, to your point earlier in the show, Jeff, I like that. OK, the defences haven't sort of shored up yet, but the fact that we're playing to our DNA and throwing the ball around, there's excitement there in our players. We have got some depth in rugby in New Zealand, so long may that continue. So I think it has. It's been a successful tournament, and it's successful because we don't know who's going to be in that sort of 4.
And when you look at these players coming through and some of the young ones that you're seeing and your time at Pukekohe, does it make you excited as a player?
It does. And the other thing, to Goldie's point and Millsy's point around the defence, I don't think we're as structured as we are in Super Rugby. There's a lot less structure. We're not committing to 4 or 5 phases of set play from the word go. If somebody sees something, they do it. In the NPC, of course, there's a little bit more freedom and not quite as much pressure, but I think that adds to it, and probably putting these defences that don't have as much time to get organised under more and more pressure.
Yeah, look, I think it's been a great competition today. I'm just hoping as we get further on, it just continues in the same fold where go out, run and gun, ruck and run, get the ball alive, some offloading, keep the ball alive. To me, that's the future of our game, and the confidence to play without fear. At that level, the next level, and at the highest level.
Yep, at the highest level. And of course, there is so much rugby coming up for you here on Sky Sport, the home of rugby. The All Blacks next weekend, more NPC. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you for joining us at home. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you next week.
The challenge is laid. The stage is set. Canada go, bang, bang. They've left New Zealand defenders in their wake. Simply superb from Canada and Sophie de Goodie. The 18-year-old wonder kid, brilliant Princeton, grabs one back for the Black Ferns. Call them dark horses, no way. Call them Rugby World Cup finalists. Magic Megan Jones versus Nasira Ponde. Who will take one step closer to Allianz Stadium? And England will strike first in the second semi-final. They sucked in the defence. They needed the points and they get it. And he kills that. You beauty. And England will stretch that win streak to 32 wins.